is sort of a silly foreign policy goal, sir. We proved that pretty much in Afghanistan.
Why is it silly when we've shown that democracies are less likely to wage war on each other than non-democracies?
I think that, of course, American foreign policy is eventually up to the American people. One of the big things that we've not been able to discuss in this country for the last 30 years is our
So, Michael Scheuer
Seriously suggesting that the U.S. should be indifferent to whether Israel survives?
I think that's exactly what I'm suggesting.
How could that possibly be when Israel is the closest ally and when it's the only democratic state in the region?
Well, I think democracy is sort of a silly foreign policy goal, sir. We proved that pretty much in Afghanistan.
Why is it silly when we've shown that democracies are less likely to wage war on each other than non-democracies?
Mr. Sebastian, that's an academic school. I think it's very strong here at Georgetown. Democracies are...
Do you have any counter-argument to that?
Well, I would, just 4 years in the United States when the world's two greatest democracies have managed to kill 640,000 of their own people. Democracies will fight just as other people will. But it's not the business of the United States, never has been, to install democracy anywhere. We don't do it very well. We do it ridiculously badly, as a matter of fact.
And not to preserve countries that have democracies?
I don't see any reason. You know, that's a canard that's very popular, that countries have a right to exist. Countries have a right to defend themselves.
And your accusation that Israel and its representatives corrupt U.S. politics?
No, not at all. I very seldom talk about Israel at all. I said pro-Israeli Americans.
All right, pro-Israeli Americans. What's your evidence for saying they corrupt U.S. politics?
Look what they did to Ambassador Freeman in the past couple of weeks.
Is that corruption of U.S. politics? That's a lobby doing what a lobby does, isn't it?
Well, that may be the case. Well, then I would argue that the fact that...
The tobacco lobby does what it does, the gun lobby does what it does, and the Israel lobby, whichever of the many groups it embraces, does what it does. That's the lobby system, isn't it?
Well, none of the other lobbies you mentioned, sir, do things that eventually rebound to America's harm. The Israeli lobby does exactly that.
And what exactly has the harm been?
What the Israeli lobby has done is to convince Americans, or have tried to convince Americans, that Israeli interests are identical with U.S. national security interests.
A lot of people would believe that to be true.
Well, a lot of people are foolish then, and leading America into defeat.
Michael Scheuer, thank you very much indeed.
Good morning. I, for one, am sick and tired of all these Jews coming on C-SPAN and other stations and pushing us to go to war against our Muslim friends. They're willing to spend the last drop of American blood and treasure to get their way in the world. They have way too much power in this country. People like Wolfowitz and Fife and the other neocons that Jewed us into Iraq, and now we're going to spend the next 60 years rehabilitating our soldiers. I'm sick and tired of it.
John in Franklin, New York. Any comments?
Yeah, I think that, of course, American foreign policy is eventually up to the American people. One of the big things that we've not been able to discuss in this country for the last 30 years is our policy toward the Israelis. Whether we want to be involved in fighting Israel's wars in the future is something that Americans should be able to talk about. They may vote yes. They may want to see their kids killed in Iraq or Yemen or somewhere else to protect Israel. But the question is, we need to talk about it. Ultimately, Israel as a country is of no particular worth to the United States.
It doesn't. You mean strategically?
We have they have no resources we need. Their manpower is minimal. Their association with us is a negative for the United States. Now that's a fact. What you want to do about that fact is entirely different. But for anyone to stand up in the United States and say that our support for Israel doesn't hurt us in the Muslim world, or our support for Hosni Mubarak's dictatorship doesn't hurt us, is to just defy reality.
Let's hear from Mount Vernon, New York. Richard on a Republican line. Good morning.
Sejak pembentukan rezim ilegal Israel, dukungan politik Amerika terhadap Tel Aviv terus berlanjut. Petinggi Amerika Serikat bahkan di sejumlah kasus berulang kali mundur dari kepentingan rakyatnya sendiri demi kepentingan rezim penjajah Zionis. Mungkin karena dukungan seperti ini telah membuat peluang untuk mengadili secara resmi kejahatan dan aksi-aksi terorisme Israel tidak pernah terbuka. Rezim ilegal ini tak segan-segan melancarkan serangan militer ke pemerintahan independen dunia, dan tidak ada lembaga internasional yang menunjukkan respon serius atas ancaman ini. Selain itu, pemerintah Amerika setiap tahun melalui pajak rakyatnya memberi hibah militer dan sipil besar kepada rezim ini. Israel setiap tahun menerima bantuan langsung lebih dari 3 miliar dolar, dan ini sama dengan 1/5 dari total bantuan asing Amerika Serikat. Benar, rezim Israel adalah satu-satunya penerima bantuan dari Amerika Serikat yang tidak seharusnya memberikan jawaban atas pertanyaan bagaimana mereka menggunakan bantuan tersebut. Selain bantuan keuangan dan militer, Amerika Serikat mendukung penuh rezim Zionis dari sudut pandang diplomatik. Sejak tahun 1982, Amerika telah memveto 32 resolusi Dewan Keamanan PBB yang mengkritik rezim Israel. Jumlah veto yang digunakan terhadap rezim Zionis ini lebih banyak dibandingkan dengan veto yang dilakukan anggota tetap Dewan Keamanan lainnya. Amerika juga menghalangi upaya negara-negara Arab untuk memasukkan aktivitas rezim Israel di bidang perluasan senjata nuklir ke dalam agenda Badan Negeri Atom Internasional. Seorang mantan pejabat Amerika yang hadir pada perundingan Camp David pada tahun 2000 menyatakan bahwa Amerika berperan sebagai pengacara rezim Zionis dalam banyak kasus. Washington telah memberi Tel Aviv lebih banyak kebebasan untuk melakukan apa yang diinginkannya terhadap masyarakat tepi barat dan jalur Gaza, meskipun hal itu bertentangan dengan kebijakan AS.